It appears tonight that Hillary Clinton actually won the popular vote for president. The votes are still being tallied. And there are millions of people in America tonight unwilling to accept the Trump victory, at least without some kind of protest. That has led to demonstrations on the streets. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen shows us what's happening.
Protesters in close to a dozen American cities have hanged and burned Donald Trump in effigy, cursed him as a Nazi, and otherwise rejected his victory with a not my president fury that far exceeds the muted displays of disappointment by Barack Obama's critics 8 years ago.
Today I woke up fearful for my family, my life, my rights as a woman.
The White House urged those Americans inclined to protest to do so nonviolently.
We're Democrats and Republicans, but we're Americans and patriots first.
Ever since protesters assaulted Richard Nixon's inaugural motorcade in 1969, the far left and even some mainstream liberals have heralded every new Republican president as the dawn of a new fascism. As if on cue, City University of New York journalism professor Jeff Jarvis tweeted, "My profession failed to inform the public about the fascist they are electing."
This is what it feels like when America is made great again. I was wondering, and I was really hoping it would feel better, because this
Some Republican presidents-elect, like Nixon, who managed only a plurality in the three-way race of '68, or George W. Bush, who lost the popular vote in 2000, have been further branded as illegitimate occupants of the Oval Office.
This is very different. There is a visceral dislike and distrust toward Donald Trump that is reflected in a lot of the headlines and commentary that we're seeing today.
If Donald Trump harbors any concerns about perceptions of his legitimacy, he might look to the first words spoken by Mr. Nixon's successor, Gerald Ford, the only president never elected to that job or the vice presidency.
My fellow Americans, the oath that I have taken is the same oath that was taken by George Washington and by every president under the Constitution.
What goes around comes around to some extent. At 11:30 p.m. on election night 2012, one Donald J. Trump tweeted, "We can't let this happen. We should march on Washington and stop this travesty." Brett?
Yes, Twitter. Thanks, James.